What's up, folks? I'm Chris, your MLB writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at the big 12-game main slate for Friday, June 17th on DraftKings. We have an 11-game main slate over on FanDuel. There's a doubleheader with the Phillies and the Nationals that's not on FanDuel, but still a ton of the same plays in both places that we like. Tonight, our favorite pitcher is the pitcher you see on the screen here, Carlos Radon with the San Francisco Giants. Radon has a really strong matchup tonight against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Really, it's Radon and three other guys at starting pitcher that I think makes sense to hone in on tonight. Robbie Ray right below him in our model. As always, we like to start by looking at our pitcher model at OccupyFantasy.com. John Gray with the Texas Rangers, who's just $6,900 here on DraftKings facing the Detroit Tigers. What do Radon, Ray, and Gray all have in common tonight? Each of their opponents have really high strikeout upside for starting pitchers. They're striking out a ton over the last 30 days, so I think these three guys will end up reasonably popular tonight. Obviously, there are a couple other names in our model that are higher than John Gray that we have to discuss. Tariq Skubal is on the other side of that game with the Tigers and the Rangers. He's pitched extremely well this year, and he's certainly worth considering at his 1.12 strikeout per inning projection here. That's a little higher than what he has done over the last year's worth of his outings, because the Rangers themselves also strike out at an above average rate. They're just not as strong of a matchup as the matchup that John Gray has on the underdog side of that game. So model like Skubal, a little more for high risk. That makes a ton of sense here. The Rangers are a little bit of a better lineup hitting wise than the Tigers are, but I do think John Gray is the better side of that game tonight. Framber Valdez with the Houston Astros, Clayton Kershaw, the veteran, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The reason Kershaw's a little lower in our model, even though he's a giant favorite here, minus 265 on the money line. The Cleveland Indians are the hardest team to strike out in Major League Baseball right now. Right now, it looks like about almost a 30% adjustment downward on Kershaw's anticipated strikeout upside based off of recent performance by the Guardians here. So have to consider that when you're looking at Kershaw tonight specifically. Valdez against the White Sox should have a decent night tonight. He's a favorite, but the White Sox are hitting slightly above average in terms of fantasy point production and striking out slightly below average. So that's why he gets held down a little bit behind our top two options, Radon and Ray. Now, anyone that jumps out from a StatCast standpoint tonight, and it looks like Valdez also is giving up decently hard batted balls to hitters over the last couple of weeks of his outings. That's another reason why the White Sox may be a little bit of a dangerous matchup for him. Looks like this high ranking for exit velocity also belongs to Michael Lorenzen of the Los Angeles Angels. So he ranks a little higher in our model, but that's an indicator of a potential spot that his opponent could take advantage of him tonight, the Mariners. Mariners may be an interesting stack we'll look a little further at in our stack dashboard when we get there. Why don't we do that now? First thing that we like to do, obviously, is look at our lowest ranked starting pitchers in our model. We feel very good about our starting pitcher model, and we feel very good that it actually points us in the right direction at which offenses that we want to consider tonight. The first thing that jumps out to me, looking at Kyle Freeland here at the bottom for the Colorado Rockies against the San Diego Padres tonight. Freeland is a normal starter, so he's just got an extremely negative adjustment to his OF index for a couple of reasons. The first is this ridiculous team total. The Padres are projected to score over 7 runs tonight in betting markets. The second is this absurd weather adjustment at Coors Field tonight. This is a Coors Field game. Padres are visiting the Rockies. We have a 30% adjustment downward to pitchers and therefore upwards to hitters. That's because there's a really generous wind blowing out at Coors Field tonight. That will help hitters on both teams. Freeland is the one that has the most negative adjustment because he's the underdog side of the game there. Paolo Espino with the Nationals is a reliever type. He's not super stretched out. He won't pitch very long in this outing. But we like him against the Phillies as a pitcher to target with some stacks, specifically on DraftKings. This game's not available anywhere else to play. Phillies with a really high implied team total, so that's obviously an interesting thing on its own merit. Zach Thompson, not the same Zach Thompson we talked about a couple days ago. This is the Pirates' Zach Thompson. He's facing the San Francisco Giants tonight. He's an underdog. The Giants have a high implied team total. Zach Thompson limiting batted ball distance, but batted ball exit velocity probably slightly below average, which is a good sign for the Giants. Daniel Lynch, left-handed pitcher for the Royals, facing the Oakland Athletics tonight. Zach Plesac for the Guardians, facing the Dodgers. These 5 teams here, the Padres, Phillies, Giants, Athletics, and Dodgers, are some of the teams that I would expect to see near the top of our stacks dashboard. And a lot of them are here. We have the San Diego Padres number 1 by OF Index, number 1 by implied team total. If you've been watching our videos, you know I like to say this. We see an adjustment upwards because of the park factors and the weather factors almost every single Coors slate that is affected in betting markets and by OF Index. We have pretty good correlation between OF Index and implied team totals for Coors Field games. Isolated slugging, weighted on base average, these are metrics that correlate a little stronger with fantasy production. Weighted on base average is the best one in our model other than OF Index for predicting hitter success in fantasy baseball. The Padres come in a little lower by those metrics. So if you're looking to fade the most popular offense of the night, which the Padres almost certainly will be at this high implied team total, this is the argument for doing so. Our model sees less upside in the power department, the isolated slugging department, and the weighted on base average department, which is what suggests a floor of fantasy point production. Now, an offense that ranks very strongly in both those categories tonight, the San Francisco Giants in their matchup with Zach Thompson of the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be a strong play tonight. Reasonable OF Index, reasonable implied team total. Got to like them tonight. Phillies over on DraftKings only, very strong across the board here with their rankings. The New York Yankees, very strong OF Index, high projected isolated slugging, lower in the weighted on base department, modest implied team total on this particular slate. The Cardinals also have a very good isolated slugging, so they may be worth looking at. The Dodgers, really good implied team total betting markets, really strong weighted on base average ranking. Looks like the 3rd highest on the slate, 2nd highest over on FanDuel. Those are some of the teams worth looking at tonight. Using the model and using the lineup builder to interpret the model that we have here at Occupy Fantasy, was able to run an MME run this morning, capping hitter exposure around 35 to 40%. That's what we found most pros do on these big slates when they run 150 lineups. Selecting only the top pitchers to run, letting it tell us what it thinks it should do tonight. The model wants to jam in primary stacks of the San Diego Padres, which makes sense at this above average ranking, but it also likes the San Francisco Giants a lot on DraftKings because of these isolated slugging and weighted on base average rankings. Let's dive in and look at the Padres specifically, since this is going to be basically the major decision point tonight on this slate. Every single hitter except Jose Azocar here at the bottom has an elite OF index for a hitter. We think anything above a 5, really a 4, is playable. Machado should probably be the anchor of your Padres stacks if you play the slate this way with that 8.4, which is well above everybody else on the team. Looking at recent batted ball data, all of these guys have modest rankings. Batted ball distance for catcher Austin Nola is one of the highest numbers in all of Major League Baseball over the last couple of weeks, so that may be an interesting play to consider that's a little lower owned. The Padres not only have this giant implied team total, this giant weather boost at Coors Field, but they have an extremely reasonable set of salaries outside of the top options. You see nobody on DraftKings is above $4,300 below Machado and Cronenworth, and then if we exclude Profile, there's nobody above $3,800 to play there. So definitely think you'll see a lot of people just kind of eat this play, the Padres, play as many Padres as possible in their lineups, play a secondary stack with the Padres, play some of the top pitchers, and move on with their evenings if they're building one lineup. That's probably going to be the most common way people attack the slate this evening. The Giants in their matchup also have reasonable prices on FanDuel and DraftKings. When we look at the rest of the first base position, first of all, Belt's number 1 overall, right? But if the Padres are going to be chalk, then this $3,800 Luke Voit is probably going to end up being an extremely popular play at first base, and it may let somebody like Belt go a little lower owned. So have to like some of the upside there to get one of our top plays at a position at potentially lower ownership than some of the more popular plays on the night. Shohei Ohtani, no surprise, one of the better exit velocity, batted ball distance numbers as well, first base, outfield eligible, depending on where you play this evening. Now going over to DraftKings, I like Carlos Rodon, number 1 pitcher in the model. I'm going to probably start by trying to get him into my lineup. Just demonstrating how fairly easy it is to get the Padres in your lineup. These are our 5 highest ranked Padres. We'll go back to the Padres in the model so you can see that for yourselves in this video. Machado, Cronenworth, Grisham, Voit, and Kim. Get all those guys in there. 45.50 per player remaining to finish off a lineup. Talked a little bit about John Gray in his strong spot against the Tigers, who's underpriced for a starting pitcher 2, considering the overall context of the Tigers season and where they rank in terms of striking out. 37.66 per player remaining for 3 final spots. I think that's plenty to find another secondary stack here to get along the Padres. I think that's plenty to figure out a different primary stack and maybe use the Padres as a secondary stack or not at all. Let's talk about some of these hitters a little more in depth before we wrap up, because this is a big slate. Obviously got the Padres up here. They're facing Kyle Freeland, who's slightly worse against right-handed hitters. The right-handed hitters that hit lefties very well in this lineup that I would be interested in are Manny Machado and Luke Voit. Okay. On the Phillies side of things, a DraftKings only play, they are facing a right-handed pitcher tonight in Paulo Espino, who's a reliever. So the Phillies hitters that hit righties the best, the usual suspects, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. You could consider Odubel Herrera, who has slightly better numbers against right-handed hitters as a punt value play, $2,100 here on DraftKings at the outfield position with a reasonable OF index. Those are some of the options I would consider with the Phillies tonight. The Yankees. The Yankees are always a strong play the way they're playing this year. They're on fire. They're facing Ross Stripling of the Toronto Blue Jays. Best Yankees against right-handed pitchers like Stripling. Probably Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo. Joey Gallo, still a very strong hitter. And in my eyes, a lot of upside there. A little cheaper than these other guys, hitting at the bottom of the order. Probably going to go lower owned. Decent off index. Probably a good GPP play there as well. And we have the Giants in their matchup with Zach Thompson of the Pirates. He's a right-handed pitcher, and the Giants are very, very strong up and down the entire order against right-handed pitching. Someone that you may not be considering, that maybe you should consider a little more, Diaro Estrada at second base. A little more expensive, lower in the order, but Estrada with an elite weighted on base average against right-handed pitching, and maybe going a little lower owned at the second base position because of that salary and where it ranks at the position tonight. I think this is a viable way to play the slate. I'm certainly looking forward to playing this slate tonight. There's a lot of different paths to success, and I'm hoping that we're all able to land on one this evening. Over on FanDuel, same general idea. Carlos Radon, 4 high upside. Padres bats, $2,400 per player remaining. Certainly enough to build a lineup if you choose to build a lineup this way and play the slate this way. Should be a fun Friday night across Major League Baseball. If you want to see our final rankings for the day, you're going to have to check out the Occupy Fantasy Daily Plug at our website around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. We'll have that updated for you. If you want to talk about MLB DFS up until then, consider joining our Discord. The link to do so below the description of every video that we post on this channel. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you on, I believe, Monday will be when we come back for more MLB DFS talk. So enjoy your weekends.